George Washington doing nothing to win the first 2 elections. Yeah, that's fair, but he was really good as a president. John Adams, when someone is slightly critical of him, 100% accurate. John Adams had a really thin skin when it came to insults, and there were some pretty heavy-duty insults that went around during that time in history. Green screen Mountain Dew, yes. Thomas Jefferson buying Louisiana. Oh, nice Breaking Bad scene there. Also, we're going to have one from each president. This is going to take a while to get through, explaining how to beat the British in 1812. Yeah, James Madison, last president to lead troops in the field. Not the only president to lead troops in the field, but one of only a couple. Monroe just vibing. Yeah, very chill time in history. Didn't have a lot going on, but solid. On his way to strike the corrupt bargain. That's a scene from... what's that movie with Christian Bale? American Psycho. Boy, that is a deeply disturbing movie. And I had a hard time with him as Batman because all I could see was his character from American Psycho talking about having to return videotapes. Andrew Jackson when he sees a Native American. Harsh but fair. Van Buren. William Henry Harrison, 30 days into office. John Tyler, first vice president to become president on the death of the president, and a lot of debate about whether he was just acting president, whether he really had the authority of president. That all kind of gets sorted out when he becomes president. Polk looking at Mexico's northern territory. Now, I will say this. John Tyler, if you guys saw my short the other day about the Peacemaker incident where you had that cannon that exploded on deck and killed the Secretary of State, killed the Secretary of the Navy, killed John Tyler's future father-in-law and a few others. Had it not been for that, Texas gets annexed sooner. And there's a possibility that war with Mexico breaks out when Tyler's president rather than later on. Taylor eating cherries with milk. You died. Okay, that was completely unnecessary. Wow, that was dark too. Franklin Pierce's son, and they show the beheading scene from Game of Thrones of Ned Stark. Yeah, Franklin Pierce's son was decapitated in a train accident, and as you can imagine, it just wrecked his parents. And his wife, Pierce's wife, blamed him becoming president for the troubles in their family because she didn't think that they ever should have pursued that, and it was vanity. And he just drank himself into a stupor after all of that happened. Buchanan as the country falls apart around him. Accurate. Yeah, JP, it was a cannon known as the Peacemaker, which had been commissioned. It was kind of a special designed cannon. It was huge, and it wasn't based on any previous design. It was bigger, and it was apparently not made very well. And it was actually commissioned. It was made by the guy who designed the Monitor years later, Erickson. And they were testing it on deck, and on the third shot, it exploded. John Tyler stayed below decks while all of that happened, or else he may have been killed as well. Abraham Lincoln. Oh my gosh. Like a 12-pack. So he didn't even give a slander for Abraham Lincoln. He just showed him as being both. Andrew Johnson getting slapped around by Congress. I like all the Game of Thrones imagery here that they're doing. Least corrupt cabinet member in Grant's administration. Yeah. And there's no evidence Grant was ever directly involved in that stuff. He was just a little too trusting of people and got taken advantage of. Charles Guiteau after James Garfield wouldn't give him a job. Also accurate. Chester Arthur when he's... Oh, yeah. The Chinese Exclusion Act is signed during Chester Arthur's administration. Grover Cleveland leaving office after his first term, walking backwards because then he's going to come back 4 years later. Most interesting event in Benjamin Harrison's presidency.
My track record so clean, they couldn't wait.
Cleveland coming back for a second term.
Y'all shouldn't have let work gas me. It's too late because I'm here to stay and these girls
Kinley finding out the Maine was sunk.
I must be getting
too flashy. Y'all
shouldn't have let work gas me. It's too late because I'm here to stay and these girls know that I'm nasty. I sent it back to her boyfriend.
Theodore Roosevelt being the manliest man in history. When we look at Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Keep making posts, wish he could, but he can't get close. OG so proud of me that he...
Now, Taft was a big guy, but he wasn't, like, if you look at a lot of pictures of him, he wasn't necessarily really fat during his administration. He was big, though. But some of the videos of him show him, he was a heavy-set guy, but kind of like an NFL lineman, you know? He's a lot of weight, but still pretty fit, I think. He did not get stuck in the tub. That's not true. There's no evidence that actually happened. That's just one of those stories people like to tell about Taft. Woodrow Wilson explaining the 14 points to Europe, talking to a brick wall. That's right. I have watched The West Wing. Love The West Wing. Warren G. Harding. It just shows him as a clown. It's funny. The two states who have had the most presidents are Virginia and Ohio. And neither one has had a president for 100 years now. And there's a reason for that. Because Ohio's last president was Warren Harding. And Virginia's last president was Woodrow Wilson. And that's the reason nobody has trusted us with 1 cent. Calvin Coolidge fans explaining how he wasn't a mid-tier president. He wasn't. He was solid.
I'm done making jokes because they got old like baby boomers. Turn my haters to consumers. I make vets feel like they juniors. Say your time is coming soon.
Richest man during Hubert Humphrey's administration. I thought it said Hubert Humphrey. Herbert Hoover's presidency.
I make vets feel like they juniors. Say your time is coming soon, but just like Oklahoma.
Franklin Roosevelt trying desperately to save the economy.
Mine is coming sooner. I'm just a late bloomer. I didn't peak in high school. I'm still out here getting cuter.
Truman after dropping the nukes on Japan.
Got these pussies walking around like they ain't lose.
Now, in the strictest sense of the word, I know I'm splitting hairs here. They weren't nukes. They were atomic weapons. Nuclear weapons come later with the hydrogen bomb. But anyway, I guess technically it's still a nuclear reaction. Dwight Eisenhower after overthrowing a random foreign government. JFK, oh boy, okay. Johnson sending 18-year-olds to Vietnam. Gerald Ford falling down the steps. There's a lot of videos of that happening. Biden had that happen a couple weeks ago too, so he's not Gerald Ford alone anymore on that one. So Manuel Noriega was a dictator down in, was it Panama? It was Panama. And George H.W. Bush sends a raid down there basically to take him. And they did. Clinton when he sees Zelensky. Bush looking for WMDs in Iraq. Obama after drone striking some random kid. Jeez, these are dark, man. Trump explaining how the 2020 election was rigged. Joe Biden. Tough but fair.